Hi my salty pecans, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Pamela, and on today's video I'm going to be doing a 1-week perlite propagation box update. But to be honest with you, it is a little bit over a week now since I placed the plants inside of the perlite propagation box. The perlite prop box that I'm actually speaking of is this one in particular, and I absolutely love this. You will all be so surprised to see the updates, to see how well the plants are doing inside of this propagation method, this propagation box, aka perlite propagation box. So if you're interested in seeing the updates, the 1-week update of how my plants are doing inside of the perlite prop box, then keep on watching. So welcome back everyone, and pretty much this is how like my perlite prop box looked from the day that I filmed the video and I posted it. I have not added any new water into this. I have just kept it the same bit of water I put in that day is the same bit of water that's in here. And I don't know if you all can tell, but like on top on the lid there's a bit of just like condensation right happening. And if you can see, maybe there's like 2 of them. There's like one here and another one over here, and that's because that's where I have plants sitting on top of here. So I guess where there is a bit of a shadow, a bit of like a darker spot, some condensation creates, I think that's what it's called, right, where there's like sweating. So yeah, you can see the little bits of water here. So like I mentioned in the initial video, I did puncture 3 holes into here, and I just did it with a scissor because I don't have time to open this box every single day and let this plant aerate, let the box aerate. So just leaving this here means you don't honestly ever have to open this propagation box up to allow the oxygen and the CO2 exchange to happen, because we know plants, they live via CO2 and humans live via O2, and they have to release the O2. So yeah, this is how the propagation box looks like right now. And I do have a few plants in here. When I do this, you can see the water swaying from like one side to the other side, and this is thick enough where I won't have to worry about like the roots touching the water and like root rot happening. But let's just have a little closer look into the propagation box. So this is the perlite prop box, and I'm just gonna do my best to not disturb the plants that are in here while showing you everything and how the roots are looking. So I did propagate a few plants. I did propagate a philodendron bipennifolium. I did propagate another philodendron hastatum. I also propagated Hoya polyneura broguette. I propagated this philodendron silver sword, and I also added in off screen, maybe a couple days later, I did add in a global green pothos, and I also added in this right here. You're like, oh, what is this? It's a Monstera stendalina. I can never pronounce that properly, but in here I can honestly tell you that the Hoyas are doing really well. I can see some superficial, not superficial, I can see some aerial roots right now. Basically this thing is just pushing out roots like crazy, and we are going to pull out that's what she said, one of these and see how they have rooted inside of the perlite. So this is how this Hoya polyneura broguette is looking like, and like I mentioned, you can see the aerial roots. A lot of these just formed from the humidity inside of the box, and this portion was stuck inside of the perlite. These were out, and as you can see how fast these roots have grown in just 1 week. there's definitely roots attached to this perlite. The perlite is not just floating, it's not just touching the internode, it is actually rooted. The next Hoya Polyneura Broguette is this beauty. And as you can see, this is how the roots are looking on this one. There's a long root attached to the perlite. There's a few little buds happening, like aerial roots happening, but a lot of more aerial roots from this piece. So if I really truly wanted to, what I can do is chop this up here, so I would have two plants that I can start. So I would have this one, stick that in the soil eventually, this one, stick that in soil eventually. The global green pothos has not been in here for honestly no more than 3 days maximum, and there has not been any new growth, and it's to be expected. It was, no, you know what, I lied. This has not been in here more than 24 hours, the global green pothos. I did just cut it and place it inside of this planter, so I'm not expecting to see any new growth this soon. And there are just 2 cuttings in here. The next one is going to be these, the larger philodendrons, and this is the first one. This is a philodendron silver sword, and there is a bit of root growth happening. And this is just 1 week. This is one of my philodendron bipenifoliums, and this plant honestly roots really fast. So again, just 1 week inside of the Perlite Prop box, really long root happening here, and there are multiple roots coming out of the upper part. So this was a centerpiece. It wasn't the top cutting of the cutting that I took. It was a middle cutting. And again, like I mentioned with the silver sword, I can also just chop this plant up here, right? And I'm gonna just have 2 separate plants that I can create. This is the next bipenifolium cutting, and this one is extremely happy. This is the top cutting of the bipenifolium that I did take, and as you can see, this piece right here is just created 4 gigantic roots, 4 huge roots. This internode section right here has also created a new root, and it looks like a new growth point also. There's also new growth coming out of the top, and the lower portion also has some good roots happening. This is the other philodendron silver sword cutting, and as you can see, there's really delicious roots happening right here, and a few of them at this lower portion. The center node is trying, I can see it's a little fuzzy, so I know these are going to push out a healthy few roots once they're happy, but you could just see all the fuzz also here. I didn't realize I took a lot of cuttings from that Hastatum, but this is how this piece is looking. There's a root right here forming. The lowers are starting to push out some new roots. This little wonky one has pushed out new growth at this portion. It's molding a little here. So let's just wipe that mold. And there has not been any active new growth at the end. So sad news, my Paradoxa ripsalis did not root in here, so this is going to be trashed. I guess it just didn't want to. So sad, but that's okay. That's why we experiment. It's good to not put all of your eggs in one basket. This particular box did not work for the Paradoxa, but Perlite Propagation definitely does work for Paradoxa. I have shown this before, but this is my Ripsalis Paradoxa Propagation, and you can see it's in perlite. Don't mind, this is like some charcoal ash. You can see the roots. Really happy, really buff plant, super happy. And I've decided to just put, you know, some more cuttings in here because I do want my Paradoxa plant to be fuller. And as you can see, these are all just fully rooted plant. So even though the Ripsalis Paradoxa in this particular box did not work out, I'm not worried because I know that this plant roots really well in perlite, and the main reason that I actually went ahead and did this is because of the success that I seen these plants, you know, exhibiting inside of perlite in other sort of containers. So the last two plants in here is, like I mentioned, this here I added into this box yesterday also. So I'm finding that this particular plant wasn't doing too well inside of the container that it was in. The leaves, this leaf has been here for honestly a year and it has not done anything. So let's just pop that off. Trash. But yeah, hopefully this roots really well in here. I might want to cut it, but I do see a new growth point here. It has a new growth point here, another new growth point here. And essentially, if we know how plants work, every node is potential for new growth. So if I show, there is technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's potential for 10 plants, 10 new growth points to pop up in this plant. So I'm just going to go ahead and just nestle it back inside of here. And the last plants are the philodendron silver sword, not silver sword, silver stripe. There's not much active growth happening in the roots of this particular one, but that's okay. But even though there's no active root growth, there is active new growth. So you can see this little thing right here, and that is new growth. So we're happy. Growth is growth, right? And then this is the other one. This one, I cut it not very well. I cut it so close to the node, so close to the node that I'm afraid that it might not root, but the roots are there. So we're gonna cross our fingers that this particular cutting does take. But other than that, my salty pecans, this is pretty much the update that I wanted to show you all. The 1 week Perlite Propagation box update. I am so happy at all of this. Like, do you see how all these juicy roots are? These plants are really happy inside of this propagation box. There is just one yellowing that is happening, but I'm not really worried too much about that because I don't mind sacrificing this lower leaf. Honestly, if the plant really wants, I can just rip this off so it doesn't even have to put all that energy into this, but I'm not gonna do that. So my salty pecans, that is my 1 week update, 1 week and a couple of days update in regards to my Perlite Propagation box. Are you as shocked and surprised as I am to how quick these plants rooted inside of the Perlite Prop Box. If you're interested in exactly how I did in the products that I use to create this Perlite Prop Box, then go ahead and click the link above. I'm going to tag the video in the info cards and also in the description box of this video. Really go ahead and try this. If you found, you know, not very much success on different ways to root your plants, whether that would be soil, whether that would be moss, whether that would be leca, whether that would be lechuza, it doesn't matter, then yeah, try Perlite Prop Box. I like this for a few reasons. It's really in regards to pests. If you are afraid of just having soil and you don't want to have a bunch of fly gnats in your home, Perlite really does help with eradicating fly gnats, aka fungus gnats, because they, like, you know, they want something nutritious for their babies, for the larvae, for them to lay their eggs, and yada yada yada. Perlite doesn't do that. Perlite doesn't give them any place that they'll want. And then the prop box is really convenient. You don't have to worry about watering it. You don't have to worry about having to open it to let air out, because again, you have the water at the bottom. It's like a little reservoir for your perlite, for the humidity, for your plants, and it's just an ecosystem in there. Essentially, it's a whole entire ecosystem that is very conscious, very cautious of pests, because I have done moss propagation box and I don't like that fly gnats can get into it, lay their eggs, and I'll open it up and, you know, I have a whole bunch of freaking little bugs just flying out. So I ended up throwing a whole container of like moss away because I could not fathom the thought of releasing them into my home of over 100 plants. So yeah, if you tried a Perlite Prop Box, I know a few of you mentioned in my previous video that I did about this that you would try it. If you did, let me know what your results are in that week, in the last couple of days. And yeah, if you've tried perlite before, if you have other propagation methods that you recommend, then go ahead and share those with me too. Next time, you're most likely going to see different plants inside of that, because I'm thinking of propagating my skeleton key pothos. Yes. With that being said, thank you so much, my salty pecans, for watching this video, this update. If you liked it, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up and sharing. Subscribe if you aren't already. Join this little cookie family because we're pretty awesome here. Become a salty pecan, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. If you aren't already, follow me on my social medias at HauzPlant. You can follow me on Instagram, HauzPlant. I'm also on TikTok, HauzPlant. I have just started one, so I'm going to try to be more active on TikTok, so HauzPlant. And I'm also on Twitter. And yeah, subscribe here to share this video, and I will see you on the next one. Let's get growing. Bye.